you salty sailors. Time to raise anchor and set sail for your best scrawny life. Arr!
We've had some rain, and some mycorrhizal fungi are beginning to emerge. Early July, here we have an amanita, not certain of the species on this, but probably quite poisonous. No reason to ever pick or eat amanitas. Not worth the risk. Notice the bulge or volva at the base of the stem. Then that partial veil between the stem and the cap, that will tear away and leave a ring around the stem when the mushrooms mature. And then you'll see those flecks of the universal veil material left on the cap. Easy identifying factors for an amanita. This is a Boletus variopes. You'll notice the reticulation on the stem, that sponge-like pore surface underneath the cap. We'll go ahead and uncover some of these small ones and just leave them to sporulate. And since I'm picking a few, I'll also do the organism some good by removing some of the leaves, letting it get its spores out into the world a little easier. There's another one that we can pick. We'll leave some of them behind. Just leave some behind to do their duty. These, of course, are mycorrhizal with oak trees. Here's one that the bugs have damaged it. It'll be fine to leave behind and spread some spores. Here we are beginning to see some chanterelles, another mushroom that's mycorrhizal with oaks. See this large dead oak. I'm not certain if they're fruiting from the root system of that tree or not, but that would certainly be something to look for. There's Lactarius subplymphogallis. Notice the widely spaced gills, and when we scrape some away, there is a white liquid that comes out, typical of the Lactarius genus. I think those are edible. I'm not certain on that one. I don't think they're very tasty, though. Here's a nice little flush of chanterelles. Those will be much better. Of course, the chanterelles have the false gills. Notice there's just blunt ridges underneath the cap, not the true paper-thin gills. Now, a mushroom that does have paper-thin gills, but is edible, is Lactifluus volemus. It's related to that Lactarius we saw a moment earlier. Notice the copious amount of white latex that emerges from this one. That's where it gets its name volemus from. This is an unknown russula. Some of these russulas are very difficult to identify. Same family as the genus Lactarius, but a different genus. We are going to rinse these off. I know, of course, they say that chefs in France just clean them with a brush. I don't think they have as many bugs in France as they do here in Iowa. Or they're just more accustomed to eating them. And these are primarily fungus gnat larvae. They're an insect that lives in the forest. They're not like flies or something that are coming out of a sewer or a feedlot of some kind or anything like that. You know, I mean, if you eat as long as it's well cooked, if you eat a fungus gnat larva or two in your time, it's just a little extra protein. There's our Lactarius volemus. You can see the latex that exudes out of it, and that latex produces that brown stain. And it does have the fishy smell. That smell disappears once it's cooked. And it's actually a pretty good edible, very similar to chanterelles themselves. You'll see it does have the true paper thin gills. The chanterelles, of course, have the false gills. And the boletes, of course, have this pore surface. Our water is boiling. I'm going to put in some cavatelli. We'll go ahead and start our mushrooms. Just a wee bit of olive oil. We don't want them to, chanterelles and boletes alike are real sponge-like. We don't want them to absorb a bunch of oil and turn greasy on us and unpleasant. So just enough to help transfer that heat. And then we'll be off and running. You can see there's a lot of water that's come out of the mushrooms. That water will prevent us from getting browning. And browning is what will develop. Now they're fine on their own, of course, but a little bit of browning will develop some of those deeper, richer flavors. So we want to go past that point that the water comes out, let it dry up, and just get a little bit of browning. The flavor that was in that water is still in the pan, and we're going to deglaze it later on and bring that back out into our sauce. So don't worry about losing that flavor. We're going to keep that. All right, to build our sauce, we're going to go just a little more olive oil. Give the sauce some richness. And we're in that olive oil. We're going to cook out some tomato paste. We're going to add some onions, tomatoes, olives, not too many. The flavor of these mushrooms, all three species of these mushrooms, is quite delicate. We don't want to overpower it with a bunch of other strong flavors. That tomato sauce has that kind of rich smell of cooked tomato paste. There's really no other description for it. But all right, our onions and our tomato paste getting real nice and aromatic here. We're going to go ahead and deglaze with some cooking wine, just plain old sherry. Now, you'll notice that I have not returned the mushrooms to the sauce yet. If you're deglazing with a wine, you'll want to, the mushrooms are very sponge-like. You don't want them to, you want that alcohol to cook out, so your sauce is not bitter. If the mushrooms were in at this point, they would absorb that alcohol. It would not be able to cook out because it would be absorbed into the sponge-like texture of the mushrooms, and your mushrooms would be bitter. So we're letting that cook out. See what a nice little sauce that creates? So now let's add our pasta. Let's add a ladle, well, not a full ladle, just a little bit of pasta water here to help emulsify the sauce. But we're gonna let this tighten up just a little bit more before we add our mushrooms. Once again, they are sponge-like, and we don't just want them to absorb a bunch of liquid and turn gooey on us. We want them to have a little bit of chew. So we'll let that sauce tighten up just a bit more. Right about there. If we go much more than that, it's going to split. So let's toss in our mushrooms. That nice, nutty, they taste like oak trees. they taste like the smell of oak trees. Which there's just really no other way to describe it. If you either you know or you don't. The next day at Lake Red Rock, I was hoping for another nice drum, but I got a couple catfish instead. My idea was a blackened fish sandwich. So we'll see what happens here using catfish instead of drum. I'm going to take the nuggets as well as the fillets of these prepared. Blackening, of course, is just using some Cajun seasoning, a little bit of all-purpose flour, coating our fillet in that mixture, and searing it in a little bit of just smoking hot oil. We want to get just a little bit of char to actually bring out the flavor a little bit more. But then for a sauce, we have this. Now, of course, you're familiar with chili con limon in Mexican cuisine. And this is also a lime and chili pepper mixture, but this is from Nepal. It's like Mexican chili con limon in the same sense that a house cat is sort of like a tiger. This is chili con limon made by the devil. And that's why we're not going straight. I'm not that crazy. We're gonna cut that down with some mayo. So that will be our sauce. That is good. The blackened catfish sandwich turned out great.